I love biscotti, but I think this is like coffee's next best friend. All right, you asked for it and now you're gonna get it. Here is the recipe for cracked pie. It's a recipe by Christina Tosi. It's also known as milk bar pie. It's a little bit labor intensive, but totally worth it, I promise. All right, got a stand mixer, got butter, sugar, brown sugar, salt, egg, baking powder, baking soda, flour, and oats. We're gonna start with the oatmeal cookie crust. It starts with 6 tablespoons of butter, softened butter, 4 tablespoons of brown sugar, and I'm using dark brown sugar because it has a little richer of a flavor than the light brown sugar. 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, right here, that goes right in there as well. And I'm going to cream the butter and sugars together until they're really light and fluffy. See? There you go. If you don't have a stand mixer, that's fine. You can use like a handheld mixer, like an electric beater. That's totally cool too. The important thing to remember is to also like scrape down the sides of the bowl so that way every bit of butter and sugar can get incorporated. 1 egg cracked right into the bowl. And we're gonna whip it again until it's really light and fluffy. So that's gonna take another 2 or 3 minutes. Everything is really super fluffy. I mean, this is awesome. This is what you're looking for right there. Butter, sugars, egg, all whipped up together. Okay. Into the butter and egg mixture goes 3/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of oats, 1/2 cup flour. In this bowl, I have 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda and 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder. And we can't forget the salt. So this calls for a 1/4 teaspoon, a generous 1/4 teaspoon. And normally whenever you would scoop it, it's kind of flat, but the generous is going to be a big scoop here. Now the important thing is this is kosher salt, and kosher salt is the only salt that you should use in this recipe that I found that works the absolute best without making it over salted or, you know, just like totally blowing your palate out. Kosher salt, generous 1/4 teaspoon, that goes into the cookie crust, and we just mix it together until it all just forms a cookie dough. The cookie mixture is done, and my oven is preheated to 350 degrees. So all I'm gonna do now is take my cookie dough and put it all together on a Silpat. And I found one of the best ways of keeping your hands from sticking to whatever it is that you're working with is to just get your fingers wet a little bit, because this is gonna get sticky. We wanna smash it out and make like one big cookie sheet. And just lay it out. Just spread it all over Silpat. And you can use, you know, parchment paper. You can just butter a cookie sheet if you want to. That's totally fine. One massive flat cookie later, we're gonna put it in the oven here for about 17 minutes. That's it. Right. So this is what we're looking at. Just one big oatmeal cookie, and this has to cool. So I'm just gonna leave it on the wire rack right now here just for a second. In this bowl, I'm gonna have prepared 3 tablespoons of softened butter right there, and 1.5 tablespoons of dark brown sugar. That's gonna go in the bowl too. So what's gonna happen is as soon as this cookie is totally cool, we're gonna crumble it up into the brown sugar and butter, just mix it together to make the crust. The cookie is totally cool enough to handle now, but watch how easily this comes up right off of the Silpat. See, it doesn't stick at all. And you're just gonna break it up into tiny little pieces over that butter and brown sugar that we've already got set up in the bowl. The whole cookie, aside from the parts that made it into my face, has been crumbled up into the bowl. So now the rack is gonna go aside, and I've got my baking dish right here. So here's the thing, it's a pie. Yes, you can make it in a pie plate, but I loaned my pie plate out and I haven't gotten it back yet. So I'm just gonna use this 9x13 casserole dish, which is really cool because whenever you're making it for a large gathering, this actually helps a lot. It makes it go even further. It's because you can cut it into cookie bars, which is what I started doing. And you can cut them like as big as you want, as small as you want, and it serves more people. It goes a little bit further as opposed to having a pie where you're just gonna get like little slivers and slices out of it. Either way, the bake time is the same. It's the same temperature. So it's totally your call. Whatever you feel like doing, go ahead and do it. Just pinch the butter and brown sugar together in all of the cookie crumbs and it's gonna make a beautiful crust. This is what you're looking for. You have the big crumble pieces here, but when I grab a handful and I compress it together, it makes logs. And this is what you want because you're gonna be compressing it down into the dish. So this is done, and I'm gonna pour the entire contents of the bowl into the pan. All right, that goes away too. And the pan comes here. And just using the palm of my hand, I'm gonna press it really, really flat as I can to get a uniform layer across the bottom. Now, if you're using a pie plate, or even in this pan, if you want, you can go ahead and create that little lip up the sides. I personally don't really care for that, especially when I'm making cookie bars, because I like the even layer of the crust and the even layer of the filling. But it's your call, make it however you want. But if you are making it in a pie plate, I highly recommend going up the sides. That is a solidly packed crust, just like that. I have a really large measuring cup right here. You can use, obviously a really big mixing bowl, but this is just to show you what it's gonna look like. In my bowl, I'm gonna add half a cup of dark brown sugar, 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. Y'all, this recipe is not for the faint of heart. 1 tablespoon of dried milk powder. It's this kind of stuff right here that you can get. And I also need a generous 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. So right here, we're gonna try it again. Big heaping 1/4 teaspoon of it. Okay, this is where I highly recommend, and I do this in all my videos, where you keep a palate cleanser of cold water nearby so you can taste the filling as you make it. I'm not gonna taste it right now. I'm just thirsty. So the reason that you need the palate cleanser when you're making this pie is because it's a salted caramel filling, and you can very, very easily just hit that little mark of too much salt that just sends it over the top. So this is where you should just taste, and taste again. But be sure and have the cold water nearby so that way you kind of wash your palate in between tastes. Okay, sugars and milk powder are mixed together. Now I want half of a cup or 1 stick of butter that's been melted and slightly cool. That's gonna go right into the sugar here. Give it a good little stir. I wanna add 6.5 tablespoons of heavy cream. It's so freaking good. Okay, 4 egg yolks right here. And God gave you these amazing egg separators, fingers, or like Ted Lasso says, your hand toes. 4 egg yolks going right in. And save those egg whites too, because you can make nougat, you can make meringue, you can make all kinds of other really wonderful things with the egg whites. So just because they're separated doesn't mean they need to get thrown out. And 1 teaspoon of really good vanilla. This is excellent vanilla. Okay, everything is mixed in, and now you really need to taste it. So cleanse your palate. And this is a cup of clean water with a clean spoon. This is going to be my tasting spoon. So just get a little taste. It's good. I can taste the richness of the brown sugar. The vanilla is really pleasant, really nice, but it's still on the sweet side, so I need to find that salty balance. So I'm going to literally take 1 pinch of salt. Whatever salt is in my fingers, I'm gonna rub until half of that amount falls into the bowl. So you want half a pinch at a time. Cleanse. Taste. It's almost there. The vanilla is much more pronounced, which is what salt does. Salt just makes food taste like food, so it'll really enhance the elements of what's in the dish. Same thing, pinch, let half of it come out, and mix it up together. I think it needs literally about 10 grains more. So that was pinching, like hardly pinching, just whatever I could catch in my little fingertips right here, just that much, and letting just a few little grains fall into the mix. So the cool thing about kosher salt is that the granules are really kind of big, It's not like table salt where it's super fine and it looks like sugar, which is oftentimes how a lot of bakers get in trouble. They'll confuse the sugar with the salt. Kosher salt's not quite like that, it's much coarser, which means you don't need quite as much of it, and it dissolves really, really well. Last time. That did it. That's awesome. So the reason that I did this was because this is specific to my taste. Okay, I felt that it needed more salt, more than the quarter teaspoon that it called for originally. If you think it's enough for your palate, then don't add any more. If you think it needs more, add more, but like I said, just very, very, very slowly, little by little, because you can always add more, but you can't take away. Filling is mixed, and I'm just gonna pour it over. It's all done. It is all poured in. Now it needs to bake at 350 degrees for 30 minutes, okay? Timer's off, time's up. Okay, gonna cancel that one. And now this is what you want to see, right in there. Okay, so now we have to turn the heat down to 325 and set it for 15 more minutes. Moment of truth. Oh, dude. Okay, I'm doing this one-handed, so bear with me, but look. Oh yeah. All right. The crab pie. Oh my goodness. And we're gonna put it on this rack. Oh, there it is. The pie is done and it's out of the oven and it is just so lovely. Dude, it smells like brown sugar. It smells like oats. It smells just absolutely incredible. Okay. This has to cool for at least 2 hours. So leave it on the rack, leave it in the pan, don't touch it, don't even try to taste it because it's like molten lava and will burn your face off. Let it cool a couple of hours and then we have to refrigerate it overnight and you can enjoy it tomorrow, which is when I'll see you next. Okay, so it's been out of the fridge for about 20 minutes. The whole reason that you let the pie sit out for like 20 minutes or so is so that way the sides are kind of softened up enough that you can cut them without too much of a struggle because, well, it's caramel and it's, you know, sugar and butter. So it does have a tendency to solidify, especially when it's really super cold. So the first thing I'm gonna do is loosen up the edges with the tip of my knife, just a little bit to crack that sugar and get it away from the side so it's easier to pry out. Since I'm making these into cookie bars, I'm going to straighten out the edges because this pan is rounded on the corner. So I just want to go ahead and make sure that my lines are straight. So there's going to be like a tiny little margin, if you will, on each side of the cracked pie that I'm going to take out, which is really cool because, you know, it's like a freebie, a taste tester. So enjoy it, right? And it pops right up just like this. So nice little edge, and you can see the salted caramel topping and the oatmeal cookie crust, and holy crap. I love biscotti, but I think this is like coffee's next best friend. Once your guests know what this is and the first time they taste it, there probably won't be anything left for you. So keep these as your own little pieces of the treat. Enjoy it. Wow.
Oh man.
It's pretty good, right?
It is so good.
All right, we're gonna get the rest of this out. So now you have this beautiful rectangle of a slab in here. So I'm just gonna cut this in half and I'm gonna cut it in half again, going across. And it's just easier to get out of the pan this way, using a spatula. And just very gently go on the edges and pry it up a little. There we go. Once you get that one corner to give, the rest of it comes out pretty easily. Look, yay! That is a massive slab of pie right there. And who says it's not breakfast food? It's oatmeal. it's cream, you know, so there's dairy, there's butter. I mean, yeah. So I'm gonna work with half of it at a time, cutting into bars. I'm gonna cut these into thirds and thirds again. You do have to work a little fast because it does get really gooey and it is meant to be served cold. So the faster you work, the better it'll be. All right, that's it. There you go. A beautiful plate of crack pie cookie bars. And if you want to kind of like dress up the presentation, you can go ahead and dust a little powdered sugar on it. I recommend doing that after it's out of the refrigerator and you're ready to serve it. I'm speechless when it comes to describing it because it's just so damn delicious. You have to try it. That's why these little nuggets right here, these beautiful strips, are chef's reserve. All right. Just make it. Just make it. Like, follow, subscribe. You're gonna love the results. Okay, bye. I know. It's like I want to feel guilty for eating it, but I don't.